Okay, guys, we're in Algebra 2, Mod 8. Today is finally Friday, April 17th, 2020. So in your note-taking today, top left corner, 4/17/20 is the date. The title is Parabolas. Now think to what we've done so far this unit. Tuesday, we graphed circles, right? X squared plus y squared equal to r squared. Wednesday, we graphed ellipses, which were the oval shapes. X squared over a number plus y squared over a number equaled 1. Yesterday, on Thursday, we graphed our third conic section called hyperbolas, which remember were curves that were facing either left and right or up and down, and they're the ones that had x squareds and y squareds but had a minus in the middle. Our fourth and final conic section are called parabolas, and what makes them unique in terms of their equation, look at the four problems I'm going to do today. Only one letter is squared, the other letter is not. One letter is squared, the other letter is not. Oh, one letter is squared, the other letter is not. And again, this one letter is squared and the other letter is not. So right away, if you ever see just one letter squared and the other letter is not squared, that's a parabola. It's what's unique about it. The other three that we did, the x squared and the y squared, were both squared. Okay? Now, a parabola, you've seen parabolas before. When you graphed quadratic functions with Mr. DeMarco, probably back in, I would say November sometime. Remember, parabolas or quadratic functions were smileys and frowny faces. So we're going to graph smileys and frownies, but they also could point either to the right or to the left, depending on the form of the original problem. So my first teaching point, here we go. Block number 1, go ahead and write x squared equals 8y. And notice on block 2, it says x minus 1 squared equals negative 4 times y plus 2. My first teaching point, guys, ready? If the x is the letter that's squared, it opens either up or down. If you want to make a note about that, that'd be great. If the x is squared, my parabola is going to open either up or down. Okay, if the x is squared, it's either up or down. So on problem number 1, the x is squared. That means it's going to open either up or down. Oh, and notice on the other side, the number 8 is a positive number, isn't it? Well, doesn't common sense say if it's a positive number, it'll open up, because up is in the positive direction. And if the other number is a negative, like number 2 here, since it's a negative number, it probably points down. So your first job is to figure out which direction your parabola is pointing. So here we go. The x is squared. That tells me it's either up or down. The 8 is a positive number, so everybody write the word up off to the side. This is where I'm making a couple little notes so I can draw my picture accurately. Now, because it's a parabola, I'm not going to call it the center. I'm going to call it the vertex. V for vertex. Now, ignoring that 8, you agree that's just a good old x squared and a good old y, as opposed to number 2 here. It's got x minus 1 and y plus 2. So just like the last 3 days, if I looked at this second one, do you agree the vertex or the center is going to be what? What's the opposite of x minus 1? 1. And then y plus 2, the opposite would be negative 2. Since this first one just has good old x squared and then a good old y with no numbers minus or plus from them, do we agree my vertex is going to be 0, 0? And then the thing you've got to do that's different than every other problem so far. Well, first of all, let's go ahead and plot that important vertex. Do you agree the vertex is 0, 0? So I'm going to put a dot right on the origin. And since it's facing up, and I'm picturing a smiley face, I'm going to put that V for vertex right underneath it. If I told everybody listening to this right now, hey, go ahead and draw a parabola that's facing up, some of you would draw a really wide, big parabola, and some of you would draw maybe a small, narrow parabola. So do we all agree the last thing we've got to do to draw this picture accurately is to decide how wide to make the picture? Well, here's what you do. Every single time you take the formula 4p, believe it or not, write down the formula 4p, and you always set it equal to whatever the number is that's in your problem. In this case, an 8. So if I told you to get p by itself, of course you would divide by 4, and p would be 2. Now, why are we using the letter p? Because this is a really important point on our picture. Now, guys, follow the bouncing pen. Ready? Look at the pen. Ready? There is an important point that's 2 units up from my vertex. Oh, that's why this little chicken scratch patch is so important here. There's a point that's 2 units up from my vertex. So, guys, go to your vertex and draw a point that's 2 units up. So I go up 2 and draw a dot and put P, because it's actually called a focus point or a focal point. So put P for that important point. Now, why is that point so important? There is an imaginary line running right through that point that's going to dictate how wide to make your parabola. So how wide is my parabola? Oh, that's what that number's used for. It's 8 inches wide. Now, careful. Don't go 8 to the right and 8 to the left. That would make it 16 inches wide. 8 inches is how wide the parabola is total. So go to that important point, okay? Go to that point, because there's a line going right through that point in your head. That's 4 to the right. Oh, and 4 to the left. And now I know how wide to draw my parabola. It's pointing up, and it's 8 inches wide going right through that point. Okay? All right, let's try this now. You're going to get the hang of it pretty quick. Number 2, the X is the letter that's squared, right? And we already made a note. If the X is squared, it's either up or down. And since the number's negative, it's going to open down. So write that word, down. The vertex, okay, just like the last 3 days, you do the opposite of the signs that you see. So what's the opposite of X minus 1? That'd be 1. And the opposite of Y plus 2 would be what? Negative 2. Agreed? So let's go and plot that all-important vertex. I'm going to go right 1 and down 2. And I'm picturing a parabola pointing down, so I'll put a little V right above that dot. So I've got a parabola pointing down, and that's where the vertex is located. So I'm picturing a frowny face going through that vertex. What do you do in your last step? You take 4p. Every time, that's the formula you use. Set it equal to whatever that number is in your problem, negative 4. Obviously, when I divide by 4, p equals negative 1. What's that mean? Follow the bouncing pen. I have a point that's negative 1, so it's 1 unit down from the vertex. I have a point that's negative 1 because it's 1 unit down from the vertex. Whatever word you wrote down, that's the direction your point goes. So I'm going to go to the vertex and go down 1. There's my important point. Why is that point so important? You're picturing a line going right through it. That's how wide total? Oh, that's what that number's for. Now that says negative 4. The negative just meant it was pointing down. So 4 is the important number there. My imaginary line is 4 units wide. So do you agree? If it's a total of 4, I go to my important point. I go right 2, and I go left 2. Because that's a total of 4. And now everybody would have a parabola that's the exact same width. Cool. All right, here we go, block 3. Everybody write y squared equals 12 times x minus 1. Okay, let's calmly think. Watch how easy this really is. Remember up top when the x was squared, it opened either up or down? Well, if y is squared, it opens either what? To the right or to the left. And since that's a positive 12, which direction's positive? To the right. So everybody write the word right. So this is a parabola opening to the right. The vertex is where? Okay, careful. It says x minus 1. What's the opposite of minus 1? 1. And then the y value doesn't have a number attached to it, does it? So my y coordinate's 0. So guys, when I graph this parabola, my vertex is at 1, 0. Right there. I'm picturing a parabola pointing to the right, so I'm going to put my V for vertex just to the left of that dot. And just like the other two, you always take 4p no matter what and set it equal to the number that's in your problem, in this case 12. So dividing by 4, of course, p would be what? 3, wouldn't it? Follow the bouncing pen. I have a point that's 3 units to the right of that vertex. It's all right there if you neatly write down your stuff. I have a point 3 inches to the right of the vertex. So I go 3 to the right, put a dot, that's my important point. Oh my God, now remember my parabola is pointing to the right, isn't it? So you're picturing a parabola to the right. How wide is it? Oh my gosh, it's a total of 12. So I've got to go from that point up 6, whoa, and down 6, and draw a parabola looking like that. Okay? And finally, the last one. Once again, the y is squared, so it's opening either right or left. I look over here and see a negative number, so it's going to open to the left. The vertex, careful. If you're not thinking, a lot of you would probably write -1, 3. Guys, there's the x and over there's the y. It's always x, y, isn't it? So my x coordinate's what? What's the opposite of x minus 3? 3. The opposite of y plus 1 is -1. So careful there. When I go to draw my parabola, I'm going to go what? Right 3 and down 1. This thing's opening to the left, so I'm going to put a little V by that vertex. I know I'm going to take 4p and set it equal to the number that's in my problem, which is -2. When I divide by 4, p is what? Do you agree that -2/4 reduces to -1/2? So I've got a point that's, now it says -1/2 because it's 1/2 to the left of the vertex. So I go to my vertex and I go 1/2 of an inch to the left. And there's my important point. And when I say there's an imaginary line running right through that, how wide is that line? Oh, it's only 2 inches total. So do you agree we would go up 1 and down 1? So that's just a little baby parabola pointing to the left that looks like that. Okay? So parabolas is our 4th and final one. Good job. That's our notes for today, the 17th. Hopefully you're watching this today on Friday the 17th. My advice, just right now, go and do the 4 homework problems and turn them in. That way you're done, you're all caught up, and you have no math to worry about for the weekend. If, however, you're going to save that for later, like Sunday night or Monday morning, technically this assignment, since it was the lesson for Friday the 17th, isn't due till Monday at noon. You're not going to keep turning these in late. Some of you that are falling behind and being lazy, that's not working. I have 111 kids to keep track of and record grades for every day. Things have got to stay with a routine. We've got to stay on time. Please, this assignment, go ahead and hit pause, take a picture of it. All right. Hit pause and copy these 4 problems down. X squared equals negative 8y. X plus 2 squared equals 6 times y minus 1. Y plus 1 squared equals 8x. And y minus 2 squared equals negative 4 times x plus 1. If for some reason you get stuck and forget what to do, you can always look at your notes. That's why they're there. Or even rewatch a problem in the video. It's your call, but those 4 are due on Monday. The sooner the better, okay? Great job. We still got a couple little things left to do in this unit on Monday and Tuesday to kind of wrap up our conic sections. All right, see you Monday.